In this video, I'm going to be going over some of the basics of a free 3D modeling software called Blender. 3D modeling is used everywhere now, from movies to video games and phone apps. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make the green Android character that you see as my background here. So start off with, by default, Blender gives you a cube. Well, we don't want a cube to start off our character, we want a sphere. So let's go ahead and get rid of this cube by left clicking it until there's an orange box around it, clicking X, and then clicking delete. Now we need to add in a sphere. To do that, click Shift A, go to Mesh, and then we want UV Sphere. Now we have a sphere to start with. Before you can edit it and change it in any way, you need to go to edit mode. By doing this, make sure it's selected, and you can go either click tab to go into edit mode, or you can go down here where it says object mode, click this, and then go to edit mode that way. Now that's in edit mode, we can change it. We can change its position, we can change its size, along each axis. These arrows you see are the axes that it can move and get modified on. The red is the X, the green is the Y, and the Z is the blue that goes straight up and down. So the first thing we want to do is to delete the bottom half of this sphere for the head. You see it's half a sphere. So the best way of doing this is to, everything is orange and selected right now, so to deselect everything or to select everything, click A. Now it's deselected. Now we want to delete the bottom half of this sphere. So let's click 1 on the number pad, which puts you in the front view, and then we are going to click Z, which will put you in wireframe mode, which means you can see all the way through it, and click B, and click and drag this box and select everything that's underneath the red line but not on the red line. Once you have it selected, click X, and we want to delete the vertices here. Now click Z to go back into normal view, and you can see that we have half of our sphere for the head. But it's open, so we want to close this off. The easiest way of doing this is to extrude it and then scale it down. So essentially what extruding does is you can select face and you extrude, and it just extrudes it, it pushes it out. So we will use this differently, but we will use the extrude tool to close this off. So at any point, if you make a mistake or don't like what you've done to the model, you can undo by clicking Control Z, and just keep doing that until you're back to the point that you want to be at. So the easiest way of closing this off, we will go down here and we will go to Edge Select, so we can select the edges and not the faces, and we want to select all of these on the bottom. But instead of going through and clicking each one, we want to hold Alt and then left click one of them, and it will select the entire ring for us. Now at this point, we want to click Extrude, E for extrude, but instead of going anywhere, we want to stay in place. So we're going to right click then, and it puts it back in its spot, but it's still extruded. Now we want to scale it down. By doing that, you click S and then drag. But we want to scale it down to where it's touching, so after clicking S, click 0, and it will scale it down to 0 size, which means that it is touching, which means we now have we have closed it off for the head of our Android character here. So the next thing we want to do, make sure you're in edit mode by clicking tab or checking down here, is to make the body. So the body is going to be a cylinder. The easiest way of getting it the same exact size as the head is to go ahead and select this ring on the bottom here by holding Alt and clicking left click to select this. Now let's go ahead and go into front view by clicking 1, and to copy this we want to hold Shift and then click D, which duplicates it. So now we can move this and place it where we want. So we want to move it straight down. So after clicking Shift D, don't click your mouse, click Z, and that will lock it to where it can't go to the sides, it can only go straight down. So we want to move it down just a little ways, and then a left click and it places itself there. Now we have this ring. While this ring is selected, we want to go ahead and extrude the ring itself down to make the body. To do that, let's go ahead and click 1 to go back into front view, and E to extrude, and then after clicking E, click Z, and it will lock it on the Z axis, which is straight up and down. And click and drag about like this till about looks right. And now we have the body. But as you can tell, the body's open as well. So to close this off, we'll do the same thing that we did to the head. Make sure this bottom ring is selected. If it isn't, it's Alt, left click, and then click E to extrude, right click to keep it in place, and then size, we need to scale it down with S, and then click 0, and it will scale it down to 0 size. Now we need to do the same thing at the top. It's a little bit hard to see, but if I move this out of the way, we can see that the top is open as well. So we need to select the top, do the same exact thing. E to extrude, right click, and then S to scale, and click 0 to scale down to 0 size. And now I will move this back down, make sure it's in the right spot. So now we have the body and the head of our Android character. The next step to creating our Android character is to make the arms and the legs. So to do this, instead of making one arm and then making another, we are going to add a mirror modifier, which means whatever I do to the right side will then go and do the same thing to the left side. So to do this, first we need to delete the left half of our character so far. So click 1 to go to make sure you're in the front view, click Z to go to wireframe again, B to select and get right next to the line, but make sure you're just a little on the left of the line, and click and drag and select everything on this side. Click X to delete, and we want to delete the vertices. So now you can see we have a half of our character. So now click Tab to leave edit mode to go into object mode. Look over here on this panel to the right, find the wrench, which is your modifiers, click add modifier, and go down, and we want a mirror modifier. Now whatever we do on the right side, we'll then do the same thing on the left. So we also, be sure and click this little tab here that says clipping. If we don't, then our object will pull apart. What clipping does is it glues it together. So now we want to create an arm. To do that, you, place the 3D cursor here, and place it right here where the arm would be. You move that around by right clicking. So place it, make sure you're in the front view, place it right in here. We want to add a cylinder, so we're going to click Shift A, go down to cylinder. We're going to scale this down with S to about this size. Remember, it's about the right size. You can left click and then move it down, and now we want it to be longer. So instead of scaling it all up, click S and then Z, and it will only scale on this axis. Make it about the right size, click and move it down, move it in its right spot, and we now have the arms for our character. So now all we need to do is we need the legs. So instead of creating a new cylinder and placing them, we already have one here, so we're just going to duplicate it. So make sure it's selected. If it's not, you can hover your mouse over it and click L to select everything that is attached, and then we want to duplicate it. So Shift D duplicates it, click and move it, and then get it down here, and wherever you get in where you want it, left click and it will place, and we now have the legs to our character. If you click 3, that puts you in the right view. We can see that they're a little bit far back, so we're going to go ahead and select the arms as well. Click L over the arms and it will select these, And we are going to get the green arrow and we're going to scoot them up just a little bit till they're about center. Now we have the body and the arms of our Android character. Now we just need to create the eyes. So to do this, let's go back into edit mode. A to deselect everything. Let's center our 3D cursor by clicking Shift C, and it puts that in the center. And we'll go to the front view and we will move it over right about here. Now we need to add a cylinder for the eyes. To do that, we will click Shift A, go to, we need a UV sphere, and we need to size this down. So click S, size it down till it's about the right size, and then left click. Now we need to move them to the right spot. So let's use the arrows to click and drag. Probably a little bit further out to the left. Let's move it back a little bit. And that looks about right for the eyes. Now we need his little antennas that he has. So to do that, we will need a cylinder, and since we already have cylinders here for the arms, let's go ahead and just duplicate these. Click L over the cylinder, Shift D, we will move it up here, and then left click to place. Now we need to scale this way down to about the right size, and now we can scale it on the Z axis, so S and then Z for the antennas. Now click G to move it down in the head, and then click R, and that will rotate it, and we can rotate them the right amount. And now we have our antennas. So now we have our Android character. To finish off our character, we want to turn him green. So to do that, we will make sure you're in object mode, go over here to the right panel, go 2 over from the wrench to this circle here that is your materials. Click New, and then go down to underneath diffuse, click this white box, and we want to turn him green. So click and drag this to about the right color. Now we have a green Android. His eyes are black though, so we want to change these black. Since they're all part of the same object, we will separate it. By doing that, go into edit mode, click tab, make sure nothing is selected, so click A when you get in there, make sure nothing is selected. Go to the eye, make sure your mouse is over it, click L. That will select only this eye. Now we want to click P, which separates, and we want to separate by selection here at the top. Now click tab again to leave edit mode, and then select the eyes with left click. Make sure you have them selected. You can, after you select something, you can right click and that just cancels. Now that we have these selected, we want to go over to the materials tab, click this X, and then create new. Underneath diffuse, click the white box, and we will click this over here on the right, and we will just drag it all the way down to black. Now we have our black eyes. To smooth this out a little bit, you can see how you can see all the lines. We can make it look a little bit better really fast here by going to the left, selecting everything, so selecting the body, and then hold shift and select the eyes with clicking again, and then underneath object tools over here, go down to shading and click smooth. Now you can't see the lines, but you can see it still doesn't look that great. So we will add another modifier really quick. Click A to deselect everything, click the body, go to the wrench, the modifiers, click add modifier, and we want to add a subdivision surface. We want to add 2 of these. As you can see, it's doing something really weird. So we're going to go into edit mode really fast. And what a subdivision surface that we just added, what it does is it rounds everything. And since it rounded everything, it's making this round as well. So to get rid of this, we want to add a few more lines in here to make a sharp crease. To do this, make sure you're on edge select mode, and then hover your mouse over one of these lines and click Control R, and you will see this orange line. Left click and then drag it all the way up to the top here, and then left click again to place it there, and see it is creating a sharp line there. Now we want to do the same thing with the bottom, so Control R, put it here in the center, left click, drag it all the way down to the bottom. We're going to do the same thing with the head here. Control R, make a sharper line. And now we want to do the same thing to the arms. So Control R, drag, Control R on the legs. And finally we'll do it here on his little antennas. Control R. Now click Tab to leave, and we have a completed Android character.